everybody, I am Erica Merriweather and this is Chiron's Daughter. Today's episode is all about the new moon in Scorpio. New moon in Scorpio is happening, at least in the Western Hemisphere, November 13th, which technically I'm recording this on the 12th, the day before, but you'll be watching this on the 13th. And every time that there's a new moon and a full moon, there's actually a halo period around it. And what I mean by that is about 2 to 3 days before and 2 to 3 days after that particular full or new moon, the effects and the energy of that moon are still very much present. So this video is really about what is the energy of the new moon in Scorpio, and also how to see how that energy is going to specifically express itself for you. I will be talking about this energy of the new moon in Scorpio through the different houses, not the signs. There is a plethora of videos out there that will talk to you about what new moon in Scorpio means based on your sun sign. I'm actually going to talk about something a little bit different, which I find to be more precise and more helpful for you. Before we get into that, I do want to talk about this general energy of the new moon in Scorpio and also about new moons themselves. So, as you can see, I just got this really cute board demonstration of the different cycles of the moon. I'm very excited about it. And so we have waxing. I don't need to list them all. You can just see it and look up the different moon cycles, but it's really fun. The two most important moons for me in astrology would be the new moon and the full moon. So right now we're in the new moon, which means that the moon is actually completely blocked by the sun, so you can't see it. It's not going to, the sun's rays, all the scientists in the world are probably going to collectively roll over in their laboratories at the way I'm describing this, but light is not being reflected from the moon onto the earth, so that's why we can't see it. And as we go through the moon cycle, the moon is basically revealed to us over time and then again goes back in. Now, how to use this from an energetic, an intuitive, or an astrological place, a cosmic perspective, if you will. New moon energy is very much an internal process to me. I like to think of it as a time to go within, to reevaluate things, to kind of take stock, to look at any new chapters that we want to begin in our life, and also kind of look at the more hidden realms. The full moon is more about manifestation. It's more about completing cycles, seeing, what is the harvest? What is the fullness, what's right in front of us. So I look at full moons as more of an expressive creative period, where new moons are more of an internal reflective period. That doesn't mean that a lot of things aren't going on in the world in a new moon cycle or can't be happening externally, because that's very much the case right now with this new moon in Scorpio. There's a lot of things that are happening around us and outside of us, but they are triggering, reflecting, and bringing to light a lot of things that are actually very internal and kind of more buried, or things that have been bottlenecked or we've been kind of not wanting to look at or working on for a very long time. Scorpio energy is by nature very intense. Scorpio is a water sign, so whenever you have a new moon or a full moon in a water sign, it's going to in particular be more of an emotional moon than if it was in a fire sign, which is going to be more about, action and doing things. In an earth sign and an air sign, they're going to be different things, and we'll talk more about that when we get to those moons. But when the moon is in water, in new and full moon, you're really going to be looking at your emotional temperature, what's happening in your emotional life. Scorpio is very much ruled by the emotions, and it's also very much a sign of contrast. So there's, the light and the dark. So there's, in Scorpios, they have the tendency to be, when they're totally out, they're the stars of the show. They're some of the most charismatic, fun people to be around. When they're not feeling good, or, they're depressed or sad or angry or in their emotions, they tend to very much retreat and go kind of in the opposite end of the spectrum. So they'll be super out and super happy, or they'll be very, very depressed and very dark and want to go and hide in their cave. Scorpio really rules the underworld. It's the sign of transformation and death and rebirth. These very kind of strong, intense, intimate sides of ourselves. It's an intense energy where Scorpio is not afraid of the dark. In fact, they bring a lot of light into the dark to be able to, shine a flashlight on things and see how in, a lot of our most painful areas is also where a lot of our treasure is. You're digging for treasure, you're finding your gold. That's the power of transformation. It's about seeing how a lot of pain you have and a lot of things you struggle with really end up being gold mines for you to tap into to find some of your greatest gifts and your greatest freedom. It's a big part of the Scorpio dynamic. It's kind of like that figure 8 infinity symbol where you rise to the top and then you go back underground, and then you rise to the top again and you go back underground. And through this constant death and rebirth, I'm processing something, I'm understanding something, I'm hitting a revelation, a new chapter, a new version of me, that I'm going down again. That process, it's like surfing. You're learning how to ride the waves of your emotions and your experiences and really create a sense of alchemy where you can take the raw material of what you're experiencing in life, which oftentimes can be really intense and painful and dramatic, but turning that into something that's really useful and valuable. It's the fertilizer of your life. A very simple example is like, if you want your crops to grow really, really healthy, what's one of the most powerful things you can do? Use manure to fertilize it. So say less. So anyways, this particular new moon in Scorpio is going to be very emotionally charged. And with that halo, most people have probably been feeling it coming and feeling these intense situations and intense stirrings inside of yourself this whole previous week leading up to the new moon. It kind of comes to a culmination on the 13th and then starts to simmer down over the next few days. So it is kind of an explosive energy. There's a lot of aspects happening with it as well that are with Uranus, and Uranus is the planet that is about freedom, about breaking free, also transformation. It's also the planet of rebellion and kind of a wild, intense energy. So when you have Uranus and new moon in Scorpio together, things are going to be a little crazy right now. Your people are going to feel very intense. If there's things that have been bottled up inside of you, if there are things that you've been kind of really grappling with and maybe not wanting to 100% address, that's going to come up to the surface now and really be there so that you can address it, so that you can look at it, so you can work your way through it, and you can have that breakthrough and have that freedom of kind of looking what's under the rug, seeing the skeletons in the closet, turning on the lights in the dark room and finding the monster under the bed and then doing something about it and not being so afraid of it. But sometimes when we go through these processes, it can be really scary because it's a lot of sudden revelations about like, wow, there's a lot of chaos happening, or there's a lot of things I'm not okay with. Or there's things that I thought maybe I was done with, but now it's right up in my face and I got to see, wow, the trigger's like right there when I thought it was long gone. So it's an important cycle. New moons have the tendency to do this. They come in, they're activators, and they let us really get a very good temperature check about where we're at. And it can be scary sometimes because sometimes when you find out where you're at, it's not where you want to be or where you thought you were. But the only way to really move forward and grow and evolve is to be able to see shit. So it's important to do that. You've got to see what's going on. So it is an intense energy. So like, hide your kids, hide your wife, like all of that kind of feeling. Don't be surprised if there is this kind of chaotic stuff. You might want to be a little more chill. Maybe you stay home. But also just, not to joke around too much, but like take your time through things. Don't rush to conclusions. Be very gentle with yourself and gentle with others as well during this time period, because we're kind of all in this together. So let's talk about the houses. How do you know where exactly the new moon in Scorpio is going to really manifest for you? That really depends on where Scorpio is in your birth chart or your natal chart, what house it's in. And also not what sign, sorry, just what house it's in. Also, if there's any planets there that are important. But I'm going to stick, for this purpose, just to the houses. If you don't know where Scorpio is in your chart, all you have to do, there's tons of websites. Astro-seek is one of them. I mean, there's a million apps where you can just plug in your birth information, your city, where you were, what time you were born, and the day you were born, and you'll get your whole birth chart. When you look at your chart, you'll see it's divided into 12 sections, and each one of those sections is a house. Then if you look up the symbol for Scorpio, it's like a little M with a little devil tail on it. You'll see that symbol is associated with a particular house. And a good app will be able even to tell you exactly. You don't have to learn the symbols even. So wherever house that's in, when the moon is in Scorpio, it's going to particularly manifest in that house for you. So pause the video, go find your birth chart, put in the information, and then find out what house your Scorpio is in, and then watch the rest of this video. So let's move through all 12. I'll try to do it as succinctly as possible so this video isn't too long. If your Scorpio in your birth chart is in the first house, the new moon in Scorpio is really going to be about your relationship with yourself. The first house is our identity, our sense of self, who we are. It really addresses the statement of like, who am I? It's not so much to the public facing part of you. It's more your internal self. Who are you on the inside? It also has to do with your self-esteem in a more personal place. So if you do have Scorpio in the first house, this new moon over these next few days, you're going to be really looking at your sense of self, your identity, your self-confidence. Who are you? Asking that question. So you might have things come up that kind of trigger that for you, where you have to look deeper into, is that really me? Is that my authentic self? Is that my real, is that really who I am? Or people, in situations kind of forcing you to be strong in who you are. And if you've been kind of shying away or afraid to look at this area, that's going to come into focus for you. If your Scorpio is in your second house, that is the house that really rules siblings. It also is value and property, your relationship with money, but also self-value. So again, Scorpio second house with this new moon in Scorpio, you're going to be looking at your sense of value. So that can tie into self-esteem as well, but more so in the area of your financial value. And you may have things coming up around your finances right now. Are you happy with where you're at financially? Are there things that you're really afraid of? Have you been putting off getting your financial affairs in order? Are you taken by surprise by stuff that's happening financially for you? Things with property and possessions. It could manifest as feelings of jealousy, as actual possessiveness. Things like that, especially because this is Scorpio energy, which is going to be more emotional. So this is more about your emotional relation to your self-value, your property, your possessions, things. It can also manifest in your relationship with siblings. So that could be, you could have some conflict here with siblings and ideas of property and possession and ownership in that area as well. If you have your Scorpio in the third house is about communication and also your kind of friends and neighbors, your closer social circle. So for you, this new moon energy, you will, again, Scorpio, intense, emotional. So you could have conflicts with your friends. You could be looking at your friend group and being like, whoa, my friends are out of control right now. Things that you're seeing in people around you that you may not like, or things that you've been putting off and avoiding, or things you don't want to discuss or talk about. All of that stuff is coming up. And in terms of communication, this could be a time for you where you're having more intense communication with the people around you. So there could be arguments, there could be debates, there could be miscommunication, things that you don't want to talk about that you have to talk about right now. If you are in Scorpio 4th house, that's going to be home, family, environment, your roots. Also, this 4th house is the house of the mother. So you're going to be looking at areas that will come up for you in this period of like ideas of nurturing, mothering versus martyrdom, anything around your home environment and your immediate family. All of that area is really up for grabs right now with the Scorpio new moon and how you are creating and experiencing this particular area. So you could have potential conflicts when it comes to, mother, home, family, environment, and, things again that you're going to have to face and look at. If it is in the 5th house, the 5th house is children, it's play, it's also creativity and self-expression. So things that are coming up right now, you may have big shifts in your creativity. You may be looking at, am I really expressing myself the way that I want to? Am I expressed at all? You could have conflicts and things coming up with your kids. You could be doing a lot of inner child work and, really working on any childhood trauma, things like that, as well would happen if you have your birth chart Scorpio in the 5th house in this new moon. The 6th house is career. It is also health and being of service. So in that area, if you're a 6th house Scorpio placement, you're going to be looking at issues in your health, your body. So it could be your body image as well. You could, this would be a time if you got a cold or if you have the flu right now, it's for you to slow down. And it's also for you to really take this moment to address things that you may have been not really paying attention to or wanting to deal with when it comes to your physical health, but is necessary for you to do so at this time. You could have struggles and conflict here in your job, your career, more your job, like your day-to-day tasks. You might be questioning things about what's your purpose. And you also might be dealing with things about being of service, whether you feel recognized for being of service or whether you feel supported yourself. And so issues are going to come up in that area. If you have your natal Scorpio in the 7th house, this new moon for you is going to be about partnership. 7th house is partnership. So that is primarily relationship, romantic partnership, but also other kinds of one-on-one. So things are going to happen for you in how you relate to others. So it could be your best friend, it could be your boss, it could be your roommate, or it could be your romantic partner as well. But the main focus is relationship. So it's, again, intense emotions. So if there are kind of bottlenecked emotions happening around partnership for you, this would be the time that you can really take stock, evaluate, and heal, and really start releasing some of these old stories. The 8th house is the house of several things. The house of power, the house of inheritance, taxes, kind of, legal kinds of things. It is also the house of the natural house of Scorpio, so it rules intimacy, death, and rebirth and transformation as well. So if your Scorpio is in your 8th house, in particular, this new moon is probably going to be pretty intense for you. You're going to be really feeling a lot of emotional currents inside of you and around you. You may have things come up around having, around intimacy and sexuality. Power struggles with people can come up in this time. Your own personal relationship with whether you feel powerful or empowered or you feel powerless. It can also be things coming up around what you feel is owed to you. If you have a debt, if you're involved in anything, legalities, stuff like that, it's going to come to the surface for you to really look at, address, and again, face your fears. Go through that kind of dark night of the soul phase where you work your way through it and get to pop out to the other side. The 9th house, Scorpio, that is about wisdom, travel, kind of foreign cultures, the sense of other, and education. So if you have 9th house Scorpio, this new moon, in some ways it could be a little more, not necessarily gentle, but a little more fun for you, because it could be that you're just having new experiences. So you're getting exposed to new cultures, new ideas, new places. You're having breakthroughs. I think, if you are a ninth house Scorpio birth chart, this could be a bit more fun of a new moon for you than some of the other placements. On the other side, though, it could be very intense, where you're looking at your worldview. What is your idea of truth, and what you thought you knew, what you think you know, and then what truth is being kind of splayed out in front of you right now might be very different things. So you're having to kind of go more into your student self, or even your teacher self, and kind of grapple with philosophical things that you might have been really stuck to in the past, and you have to reevaluate your mindset. 10th house is reputation, fame, and the father. Also career. So 6th house is more like your job, what you do day to day. 10th house is more your career, your legacy. So if you have Scorpio birth chart 10th house, that is stuff that's going to come up for you right now, your reputation. So you might have things where people challenge your reputation. You're worried about your reputation. You might have to face some things in that, how you present yourself publicly. You could have things come up around healing your relationship with your father, healing your relationship with your children, or anyone you are currently fathering. Really coming to terms, anything in the area of your divine masculine. So if going, let me just call back to the 4th house of Scorpio. That's the mother house. So for people who have 4th house Scorpio, you could have things coming up around receptivity and your divine feminine. The feminine energy is not gender specific. It exists in all people. We go through these polarities like the yin and the yang. We have both of us inside of us, but the feminine energy is receptive. It's the receiving part of us, the part that's in our intuition, that flows with things. So the nurturing part of us. So if you have Scorpio 4th house, you might be dealing with a lot of things of it's okay for me to be sensitive. It's okay for me to be vulnerable. I'm safe in my vulnerability. You'll have stuff that comes up for you in that area, and understanding flow and timing. So if none of your manifestations are happening, understanding maybe you're pushing too hard and you need to allow. If you're 10th house Scorpio, it's basically the opposite. Really sparking yourself and going out there and doing things and creating things. The masculine energy, divine masculine, is more about moving forward, about going out, about action, that strength, that kind of putting your stake in the ground. And again, not gender specific, but if you have 10th house Scorpio, there might be things coming up in this new moon that are calling you to face the part of you that doesn't want to just make a decision, or that isn't really, relentlessly going after your goals and not stopping until you make it happen. You're too in your yin, and now it's no longer just receiving and allowing. You're allowing to a fault, where you're just allowing things to just drift by, they don't matter. So then that's not really a healthy use of that energy. So 10th house is more, I believe in myself, and I can do it, and I'm going to make it happen, and I am my own protector, and I am my own foundation and my own strength, and I'm going to build that business, and I'm going to have that conversation, and I'm going to build and create and do. You could also be dealing with things about, like I said, how people see you and how you occur in the world, and really facing fears about how people might perceive you, and getting more clear about, do you care about that, and how do you want it to be? The 11th house, Scorpio people, the 11th house is more about humanity, large social groups, technology, visionary things. So you will be looking at, in this new moon, ideas around how you relate to the whole world, your intense feelings. So you might be grappling with things about how you feel about society at large. Are you at peace with the world? You might feel very, very empathic during this time. You can kind of feel everything that's happening around you on the planet, and that can feel very intense. So for you in particular, you need to really a bit kind of baby yourself right now, and try to work with this energy and not let it overtake you where it takes you out. Think of yourself more as a channel of energy. So if I am feeling the pain of the world, transmute that into something positive that you can do to create, to express. Don't just carry it inside of you. And also know that if you are highly, highly empathic, you can feel the world. It doesn't mean that you can just feel the pain of the world. You can also feel the joy and the celebration in the world as well. So let yourself, take this time where you might be feeling super intense to balance that with giving yourself time to really look at things that are delightful. Find stories about people doing wonderful things and happy and beautiful things just as much as you're going to feel the world's suffering. Raise the vibration of yourself, raise the vibration of the planet by tuning into those things. Use that 11th house energy to come up with peaceful and joyful solutions for the problems that you might be feeling and seeing around you. Last but not least, we have 12th house Scorpio. 12th house is the house, it's our cosmic house. It's our karmic completion. It's really about taking things full circle and really going off planet. So now we're into spirituality, understanding the biggest picture possible, going more into mysticism to the point of like freeing your soul and understanding the karmic cycles of life. How we're all here. Earth is a school. We're going to be transmuting our energy and understanding the big picture of things. And this is very similar to Scorpio energy, even though Scorpio is really ruled by the 8th house. 12th house to me is quite similar, and it's a powerful placement for Scorpio because it's about taking that emotional intensity and the drama of life and understanding the bigger picture as this is a creative, alchemic process that is actually quite beautiful and powerful and can be, free yourself in massive ways. So 12th house Scorpio birth chart right now with this new moon, you might find yourself in particular really trying to complete a cycle where you've been seeing a pattern that you have been operating from that's been very difficult for you for many years, many moons, and starting to get to this point where you're like, wow, I really have to change. I don't have a choice. My life is my external world is kind of forcing me now to end this disruptive pattern. And even my internal world is really calling me to end this disruptive pattern, get the message, get what this is trying to show me, what is it trying to teach me, and actually then start to really live the healed version of you, the one who understands, I've been running into the same wall 27,000 times. Maybe I should take a different road. And it's like, here's this opportunity at this new moon to go, yeah, you know what? I think I've had enough. I am going to take the new road. It might not be easy to turn the car, but I just can't hit that wall anymore. So no matter what, I'm going to change. That energy is really powerful for you here, especially if in your birth chart you have a 12th house Scorpio. This is really a very powerful moment with the new moon for you to be like, okay, I don't want to be this anymore. And I keep seeing that I'm doing, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. So 12th house Scorpio right now, Scorpio new moon, you actually are in a window of time where you can start seeing where, you've been doing that in kind of areas you've struggled with, grappled with for decades, where you can see, wow, I keep doing the same thing and I keep thinking it's going to turn out different and it keeps turning out the same. So I think the problem is me. Across the board, whatever house I'm talking about, you can actually look at it from that lens. So go back to the 2nd house. If you keep struggling with money and finances or your siblings, where are you doing the same pattern over and over and over again, thinking that it's going to work out differently? The problem is you. Look at that in relationships, look at it in communication, look at it in, your ideologies, if you're in the 9th house, whatever house it is, with your health. If you can't if you can't get your health together, is it because you keep smoking cigarettes? Probably. You should maybe stop smoking cigarettes, and then you'll see your health will change. These kinds of things. Or if you want to get healthy, but you never change your diet, or you keep trying to change your diet through a way that is, you're constantly punishing yourself and restricting everything, and then you swing in the opposite direction and rebound. So clearly that pattern is not working, so you should try a different way. So in a nutshell, that's basically, I think, the most powerful part of this new moon in Scorpio is to go, yeah, where am I just like constantly doing the same thing, and I think it's going to work out differently. I should maybe check that out. Or where am I just, I'm done struggling in this area. I'm making it too complicated, or I'm just so afraid that this or that is going to happen that I'm manifesting it. It might as well be happening because it's all I think about anyways. Really look at that in this time period, because you have an opportunity to end that cycle. And last but not least, with all this Uranian energy going on, it can feel very chaotic. It can feel like there's a lot of problems happening. People are all over the place. You can feel like very much like you're at war. Everything's at war. You're at war. There's conflict. Like, it's crazy energy. So the fastest way to work with that and transmute it and get through it is, number one, to find anything and everything to be grateful for, because gratitude will always shift your vibration into something more peaceful and happy and eventually celebratory. That will clear the slate. And if you don't want chaos out there, and you don't want, war out there, then you have to start with what's happening in here and in here. So are your thoughts peaceful? Is your relationship with yourself peaceful? Are you looking at the landscape of your life and at others from a peaceful perspective? Because if you are, then it's going to be more peaceful. What you do, you'll walk through this world and create more peacefully. So your results and everyone around you will benefit from that. And it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I hate when I do that. A self-fulfilling prophecy. So peace begins within. And that's it. That is everything that I feel and think about the Scorpio in new moon. If you like this, drop a comment. If you would like to do a reading with me about your moon cycles, your birth chart, Chiron, you name it, I offer all of those services. You can go to my website, starpathastrology.com, and I will talk to you at the full moon. Bye.